Okay. Hi, my name is Sofia Ortiz, and this year I am studying elementary education. Before I go into my research and everything that I've learned, I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about myself. So I am a senior here at Frisco High School. I am a second-year ISM student. Last year I studied pediatric nursing, and I chose to go into something different this year just because after my mentorship and after all the research that I've done, I realized that I wanted to help kids, and that's why I thought nursing was what I should do. But then I realized that I couldn't deal with the fact that I would be losing patients and that I'd have to watch kids pass away and then I'd have to watch their families go through that. So then I wanted to still do something where I would be helping kids, so I thought that I could learn about teaching, and I'm so glad that I took ISM and that I had that opportunity, just because I would have gone to college for nursing and I would have realized later on that that wasn't what I wanted to do. My mom, when I told her that I wanted to be a nurse, she said that she didn't understand why, because she said that when I was little, like, some of my friends had imaginary friends, but I had like this complete like imaginary classroom where I like set up my teddy bears, and I'd get home from school and I'd have this whiteboard and I'd teach them everything that I had learned that day. So my mom was like, she's always said that like that's what I was supposed to do, and now after learning everything that I have, I feel like that is what I'm supposed to do. I'm from South America. I have one younger sister who's also inspired me, and she's kind of the one who made my love for kids stronger, and I also love photography and music. My quote for this year is, "Your profession is not what brings home your weekly paycheck. Your profession is what you're put here on earth to do, with such passion and such intensity that it becomes spiritual and calling." And Vincent van Gogh said that. And when I was looking for quotes for this year, I really like this one just because I feel like it applies to ISM. And it's basically saying, like, it doesn't matter how much you make or how much something is like paycheck wise, but if you do it and you feel like that's what you're supposed to do, and you do it with like such passion and intensity, like he says, that it just becomes what you're supposed to do, and it's just kind of a part of who you are. So I really like that quote. Why I chose to take ISM: I was in photojournalism my sophomore year, and there was a girl in that class named Kat who's actually studying elementary education, and she'd always be working on like presentations and papers and stuff in class. And I remember one day I was like, "Kat, what is this class that you're always doing stuff for?" And then she kind of told me about ISM, and she told me to go talk to Coach Goff, and I remember her kind of walking me through my interview and telling me how this class would teach us so much and how it was such a great experience. So I applied. And I think that it has been a great experience. I've learned so much about professionalism and how to properly address someone and how to talk in the business field. I think that a lot of kids our age don't know how to talk to adults, or how to, at least like business-wise, or how to properly communicate with them, or how to do anything business-wise. So I think that this class is really great. It's also taught me a lot about confidence. Last year at the beginning of the year, I dreaded having to give speeches because I'd always get like really bad anxiety. And now every time I have to get up and give a speech, I mean, I still get nervous, but it's not as bad as it was last year. And I think that with ISM, that wouldn't have happened. It also gives us a lot of practice for what we want to do. Like I said, I wanted to be a nurse last year, but then I realized because of this class that that's not what I wanted to go into. And it gives us really great opportunities. So some of my interviews that I did this year, my first one was with Miss Day, and she was actually my kindergarten teacher. So I went back to my old elementary school, and she still works there, and I interviewed her. And then the next one was Miss Durst, and she actually used to be an FBI agent, and now she's a third grade teacher. So I thought that that was really cool. Coach Goff recommended her. And so that was really interesting and fun to like talk to her about like the FBI, but then how she just like went into teaching. Miss Ludecki, who is a private school teacher, and I really like that interview just because I've gone to public school my whole life, so being able to talk to her about what the differences between public schools and private schools are was really interesting. Then I talked to Miss Nicolas, whose husband was in the military, so she had done a lot of traveling. She had actually taught in like Europe and different countries, and that kind of sparked the thoughts of like maybe one day traveling and being able to teach kids in other countries and expand my help and love for them. And then the last interview was with Miss Polar, who is actually my mentor, and she works at the same elementary school that I went to. So what I learned throughout my interviews, there was a lot of common things, so I just kind of organized them into one. one of the biggest things that they all stressed was organization and staying organized, and how if you're organized and you stay on task and you do everything, like you don't procrastinate and you do everything right, you can get your lesson plans done in advance. So then when you're in class, you're not stressing about, oh, I have to do these lesson plans, or oh, I don't know where these papers are. You can walk into class and you have everything organized and ready to go, and it makes the teaching process a lot smoother, and it just kind of all goes easier. You also, if you stay organized, you don't have to spend as much time as you would after school working on stuff. You can get stuff done during your planning period, and you can just kind of get everything set so you don't have to stay after school, after hours for a long time. The second thing was patience, because you are working with elementary school kids, and a lot of them want to run around and they don't want to sit still and they don't want to learn. And so you have to be really patient and just kind of don't let that get to you, and you kind of have to redirect them a lot. But if you show patience and if you're okay with having to do that, then you're going to be fine. Also, to be outgoing, make mistakes, and stay excited, those 2 points kind of go together. We've all had those teachers that stand in front of the class and they just kind of monotone speak and they're not excited about what they're teaching us. So then we go into class and we're not excited to learn that subject because they're not showing any excitement or any initiative. But if you walk into a class and the teacher has a conversation with you and they seem genuinely happy that they're teaching you and that they want you to learn, then you go into that class and you want to learn and you want to be excited about that subject. So being outgoing and staying excited about your class and what you're teaching really helps. And then also, like I said, teaching abroad, and how with a education degree you just can get like specific certifications and you can go and teach in other countries. I thought that would be really fun. So my mentorship, I chose Miss Polar as my mentor, and that's a picture of her. My kindergarten teacher is a math specialist right now at our school, at the elementary school that I went to, so she doesn't really have a classroom. So when I had my interview with her, she took me to meet Miss Polar, and I was in that classroom, and I immediately fell in love with all of the kids. So then I went back and I interviewed Miss Polar, and I asked her to be my mentor, and she agreed. So these are just some things that I've learned in my mentorship, which has actually been a lot. The first thing is positive reinforcements. Like I said, they're little kids, they want to be running around. We'll be sitting in the classroom and they have like this carpet, and we'll try to get them to sit there, and they won't because they want to stand up or they want to go play, or they see somebody went to the bathroom, so then all of them want to go to the bathroom. And it can get really stressful sometimes. So they have something called Eagle Awards, and we actually had them when I went to school there. So that was really exciting to see again. And it's just this little piece of paper, and you give it to them, and then they can put it in a bucket, and then at the end of the week we have a drawing and they get prizes if their name gets picked. And so if they're all being rowdy but you see this one student being like good, and you give them an Eagle Award, all of them just quiet down and they'll sit still and they'll be good because all of them want Eagle Awards. So they'll suddenly like start paying attention and they'll start being good. So positive reinforcements have been a big thing in the classroom. Also, again, patience, just because, like I said, they're little kids and they all want to run around all the time, and so it kind of gets stressful, or they'll be sitting in their chairs and they won't want to like be doing their work because somebody else went to go sharpen their pencil. Every time somebody goes do something, everybody else wants to go do it. That's also, parent-teacher relationship. I hadn't really thought about this because my parents were always really involved in my education and kind of try to, at least growing up, they try to keep contact with my teachers. Not so much anymore because I'm older now, but when I was younger they did. And so Miss Polar has taught me that it's not always that way. There's this little boy in our class who, we were sitting in class and he went up to one of the girls and he got some scissors and he like tried to cut her, and we were like, what are you doing? And he's like, I want to make her bleed so we can both go to heaven together. And me and Miss Polar were like, what? We were really like scared. And so Miss Polar tried to like reach out to this boy's parents and stuff, and like they aren't making an effort to reach back, so it's just kind of fallen on Miss Polar. And it's been a really big learning experience just being able to watch her deal with that and not have any parental support, because kids are in the classroom for a certain amount of hours, but then they go home and they're in a classroom first, and they're at their house for a certain amount of hours. So if we're teaching him manners and if we're teaching him not to do that stuff and not to say those things and not to hurt his classmates, but then he goes home and those things aren't being taught as well, then it's just kind of hard, and he's kind of confused about what is right and what isn't. So just watching her kind of deal with that and see how she kind of tries to help him without having parental support has been a really big learning experience. And also explaining things and taking it slow. we walk into class and our teachers give us worksheets, and we read the directions and we can do it. But with little kids, it doesn't work that way. If you give them a worksheet, they're going to be like, okay. And so she puts everything on the projector and she'll do it herself, and then she'll explain it like 10 times, and then they go to their seats and they still have questions, so then you have to explain it again. And that's another time when like patients come in. A lot of times you have to explain a lot of things and take it slower than you would, because I know all the answers to everything because it's kindergarten, so it's easy, but they don't. So you have to like remember that, and you have to be able to explain everything to them continually. And yeah, so that's basically what I've learned so far in my mentorship. Okay, moving on to my original work. So being in the classroom, I realized that in every classroom, no one student is alike to another one. Like, we're all different, we're all individuals, we've all been raised differently, we all have different thoughts and ideas and beliefs, and we all learn differently as well. So I didn't understand how a teacher could walk into the classroom and give a lesson and make every single student understand the lesson. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but they figured out a way to do that. And so I wanted to go into more in depth and kind of figure out if there was a better way to teach students to where everyone would understand it at once, or if there was things that we could do to kind of change that and better it for everybody. So the beginning of my research was the 3 main types of learning, which is kinesthetic, auditory, and visual. Visual is just kind of, they like to see graphs and pictures and stuff, and that's how they learn. Auditory, obviously, they like it when somebody stands in front of them and talks, or they like listening to music to memorize things. And then kinesthetic, they like to touch things, so they like labs and stuff like that because they learn better. So then I wrote down what the correct characteristics for these students were and how a teacher could differentiate them from somebody else, so that if you have a kid who is having difficulty learning and you don't understand why, maybe you can just see what group you can group him under and then see what they can do. I also wrote down different lessons for each student, and so there's different lesson plans for everyone depending on what their different type of learning is. So again, if you're a kinesthetic learner, then you would like labs more. If you're a visual learner, then you would like having video shown. Or an auditory, maybe the teacher could play music and then they could memorize things better. And then that brought me to teaching mixed classrooms. When I was younger, I was in GT programs, and I wasn't always in the GT classroom. I had to go to my normal classrooms. Just like we come to ISM and this is a GT program, but then we have to go to like regular classrooms, or if we're not in an AP class or something. So you have higher level thinkers and lower level thinkers, or like on level thinkers. And so being a teacher and being able to accommodate to everyone can be really hard. I remember a lot of times in elementary school I'd get bored because I'd finish everything early and I'd just be like, okay, what do I do now? And all the other kids were still working on it. So you kind of had to cater to everyone and make sure that the higher level thinkers aren't bored and that they're still using their brain and they still feel challenged, while the lower level thinkers don't, or on level thinkers don't think that they're being like segregated or separated, and they don't feel like something's wrong with them because they're not as a higher level. And then also teaching kids with like mixed backgrounds. Again, like I said, we all come from different learning styles, and gender plays a role in learning, and so does religion, so does ethnicity. And so I did research on all of that. And then teaching students with learning disabilities, there's a little boy in our classroom who has autism, and so whenever we group off into groups, Miss Polar has him sit down at the table with her, and so they do more one-on-one thinking, and then I kind of help all the other kids in their kind of more individual thinking. And you also have to cater to a lot of things. There's a lot of paperwork involved with learning disability students. There's a lot of special needs that you need to make sure that they're getting. And so I just kind of did research on what those needs would be, and they also have different benchmarks that you have to hit. So how, as a teacher in a classroom with different benchmark students, how you could hit all of those. And then different types of teaching. I read a lot of like blogs and essays and papers that teachers had written about what they thought was the best way of teaching, and it was interesting to see all the different types of teaching that were being done and all the different opinions that everyone had. And so basically, after I had done all that research, I put it all into this PowerPoint, and it has, again, lessons and different tests that you could do for each of the different levels of thinking and everything. And I put it all into this PowerPoint, and I hope that if, I don't know, like new teachers, or eventually in the future, I could go back and refer to it if I ever feel like there's a student who what I'm saying isn't making sense, or what is being taught, he or she doesn't understand it. So that's why I did all this, and it's also led me to my final presentation, or my final product, which I hope will be lesson plans for a classroom of like learning disability students and higher level students, just kind of like a really mixed classroom, and see how I can apply all these things and put them in my lesson plans to where it makes sense to every single kid. Okay, so my future goals, I hope to graduate high school. That's the first one. And then I want to go on and study education at UNT. I did a lot of research on schools in Texas, and UNT's, honestly, I love it. Every time we go visit there, I love it. And I think it has a really great education program. I'd like to then graduate UNT with an education degree and teach in Frisco, just because I really love Frisco and I love the area, and so many new elementary schools are being built, so I feel like later on job opportunities will be really great here in Frisco. And then eventually teach abroad. I'd love to be able to travel and teach kids and be able to just kind of spread the love. And there's a lot of countries where they don't have very good education, so I'd love to eventually be able to go and help everyone and teach all of them. So to me, teaching has become more than just standing in front of a classroom and talking. Teachers are mentors, parents, nurses, mediators, and many times a friend. I'm so excited to be able to teach a class of my own one day, and I'm so thankful for the opportunities I have been given. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.